Dr. Marang Baloch has sort of become the figurehead of a thing called the Baloch Jayati Committee. It's basically a protest movement for Baloch rights,
Hmm.
and
So she's just like
has
an activist, right?
yeah,
Okay.
basically. And the the movement, like a lot of protests, are led by women because the Pakistani military, just abducts people, and a lot of the women protesting have had their fathers or brothers or someone in their family just abducted by the military.
This is from FBM. Free Balochistan movement condemns Pakistani state's brutal actions against peaceful protesters in Balochistan. This was today. The Free Balochistan movement, FBM, has strongly condemned the recent actions of the Pakistani state forces in Balochistan, where peaceful and unarmed protesters were shot at during a demonstration in Quetta. According to the FBM spokesperson, on Saturday, 22nd March, three Baloch individuals were killed and several others injured when Pakistani forces opened fire on the protesters. The FBM statement further criticized the international community for its silence in the face of these atrocities. The spokesperson accused global peacekeeping bodies and organizations of turning a blind eye to the ongoing genocide of the Baloch people, suggesting that the Pakistani and Iranian states would not be able to escalate their violent campaigns against the Baloch without international complicity. When peaceful Baloch activists are gunned down, there is no outcry from the international community. However, when the Baloch nation rises in self-defense, the same global organizations repeat the narratives created by the Pakistani military, the FBM spokesperson said. The movement called for a shift in international policy, urging global powers like the UN and peacekeeping organizations to take action against the ongoing repression. The person went on to highlight the systematic repression of the Baloch people by both the Pakistani and Iranian states. The FBM, what the FBM said, I think, that both regimes have been actively trying to annihilate the Baloch population since their respective occupations began. The Pakistani state, along with Iranian forces, is accused of trying to force the Baloch nation to abandon its pursuit of freedom, human rights, and dignity. Despite ongoing atrocities, the Baloch people continue to resist at all levels. In the same statement, the FBM condemned the actions of the Pakistani forces, who, under the cover of darkness, buried the bodies of 13 Baloch martyrs in Quetta Kasi graveyard, labeling them as terrorists. The FBM called this act a violation of basic human rights and an affront to humanity. The forced burial of these bodies, without identifying them or informing the families, the FBM argued, infringes on the right to information guaranteed under Article 19 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. The FBM spokesperson further emphasized that the Pakistani state continues to label anyone who speaks out for the Black people, whether men, women, children, intellectuals, or activists, as terrorists. In contrast, the spokesperson argued it is the Pakistani and Iranian states that are the true terrorists, as they engage in human rights violation and systematically erase the identities of the Baloch people. Drawing historical parallels, the FBM pointed out that the Pakistan's actions in Balochistan echo the tactics during the 1971 Bangladesh Liberation War, where the Pakistani military targeted intellectuals, students, and civilians in an attempt to suppress the Bengali population. The same methods, the FBM stated, are now being applied to the Baloch intellectuals, students, and peaceful political activists. Lastly, the FBM condemned Pakistan as not just a state engaged in internal terrorism, but also one that spreads terror globally to further its expansionist goals. The movement called on the international community, including the UN Security Council, to recognize Pakistan as a threat to global peace. They stressed that Pakistan's ongoing campaign of mass killings and genocide against oppressed nations like the Baloch and Pashtuns must be held accountable. The FBM reiterated its call for immediate international intervention to stop the Pakistani state's actions in Balochistan and demanded that the global community hold Pakistan accountable for its crimes against the Baloch people. It's wild, like, depending on the source, they're gonna, like, call them just, like, straight up terrorists, or what they actually are, which is, like, human rights activists. Like, activist Dr. Meringue Bullock was just arrested a few days ago. And they're all saying that, like, she is a terrorist because she has been charged with terrorism by the Pakistani state. So maybe we can get into this a little bit real quick. Balochistan, a region rife with conflict, has become a powder keg as Pakistan confronts growing insurgency and resistance movement. Insurgency. Like, this one isn't as bad as others, and it's still, like, very slanted. Mostly illustrated with the hijacking of the train, a train, by the Balochistan Liberation Army. The shock attack resulted in around 60 deaths and brought to the fore the boiling, deep-seated tensions between the Baloch people and the Pakistani state. What they don't say there is that 33 of the deaths were by the Pakistani state forces. So I just feel like that's relevant. This image is just deeply racist. This is very concerning. But this is India times of India, whatever. So just a quick overview. Anyway, it is kind of useful for that. The BLA, the Balochistan Liberation Army, is active since 2011, is the most prominent of the many separatist groups in Pakistan's Balochistan province. Majid Brigade is the BLA's dedicated suicide squad. Again, not sure about that. I don't know. Suicide squad seems... I don't think that just doesn't feel right. Balochistan is the country's largest province. It has oil and other natural resources, but the ethnic Baloch are Pakistan's poorest and most underrepresented people. Till 1947, Balochistan comprised multiple chiefdoms. Ahmed Yar Khan, the chief of Kalat, was the most powerful. He was forced to accede to Pakistan in 1948 after Pakistan invaded Kalat. This triggered an insurgency, which remains ongoing due to unjust behavior of the Pakistan government towards Balochs. The Pakistan establishment, referring to the army, also turned its eyes towards more legitimate forms of protest. Pakistan police recently detained Meringue Bullock, a leading human rights advocate and a symbol of Baloch aspirations, igniting further unrest. Pakistan views the Baloch movement with increasing alarm, fearing the rise of separatist sentiments and challenges to its authority in the region, particularly because of Balochistan's vast area and crucial borders with hostile countries like Iran and Taliban-led Afghanistan. God, the framing though, it's not great. This isn't great. The other one was much better. The arrest of nearly 150 activists, including Meringue Bullock, recognized by Time magazine as one of its 100 next emerging leaders, has sparked international condemnation and raised concerns about human rights abuses and suppression of Baloch voices in Pakistan. Pakistani authorities arrested Meringue on Saturday under charges of terrorism, sedition, and murder after a protest in Balochistan's capital, Quetta, resulted in deaths of 3 protesters. Who is Meringue Bullock? Meringue Bullock, a medical doctor and leader of the Baloch Yagjeti Committee, BYC, has been vocal about enforced disappearances and alleged extrajudicial killings in Balochistan. Her sister, Ikra Bullock, condemned her arrest, stating on social media that her visit to Hutto jail was reminiscent of when she saw her father behind bars 18 years ago. Back then, Meringue was by our side. Today, she is not, she wrote. Meringue has been a key figure in protest against enforced disappearances. Her father, Abdul Ghaffar Langove, a nationalist leader, was forcibly disappeared in 2009, and his body was found 3 years later in Las Bella district, according to the BBC. Since then, she took the decision to fight against enforced disappearances and extrajudicial killings. Now, the 32-year-old is continuing activism despite odds thrown at her, which include both death threats, travel bans, detention, etc. In December 2023, she helped organize a major march to Islamabad, calling for action against the enforced disappearances, which was met with police crackdowns. Meringue's family has also alleged that authorities have denied them permission to meet her in jail or deliver her food. They have met her now in jail. I think, from what I understand. I've also seen conflicting reports on that, so I'm not sure. Growing Baloch resistance. Support for the Baloch resistance, both violent and non-violent, has been growing, especially among the youth. Many have been radicalized by ongoing human rights abuses in Balochistan, where the anti-insurgency crackdown, dubbed Pakistan's secret dirty war, has led to thousands of enforced disappearances and killings over 2 decades. Voice for Balak Missing Persons reports that since 2009, around 1,500 individuals have been found dead, often brutally tortured, while 6,000 remain missing. Human rights groups say extrajudicial killings are rising, but the military denies involvement. Classic. Fucking classic. Faith in political solutions has eroded after allegations of military interference in the 2018 and 2024 elections, which sidelined popular Balak nationalist leaders. Okay, we're running out of time, but if you wanted to finish this article, there's that. But again, that first one is much better. It's speaking about the liberation movement and like the Free Balochistan movement. So I would start there.
Hello.
Hi.
How are you doing? Good. Is the mic fine? Sure. Of course. Just I guess as a disclaimer, I'm just like a normal Baloch from the area. I'm not like a scholar or an expert, so it's not gonna be like technical my views. But I just wanted to get it out there and talk with people.
Yeah.
And yeah, Dr. Marang Baloch is the has sort of become the figurehead of a thing called the Baloch Yukjahati Committee. It's like it's a basically a protest movement for Baloch rights,
Hmm.
and
So she's just like
yeah,
an activist, right?
yeah,
Okay.
basically. And the the movement, like a lot of protests, are led by women because the Pakistani military, just abducts people, and a lot of the women protesting have had their fathers or brothers or someone in their family just abducted by the military.
Right. I was just
And
reading to chat about how her father was abducted, and he was a nationalist leader for Balochistan, right?
uh, yeah, um, there's like a lot of ethnic divides in that way. So, and traditionally, Balochistan has never voluntarily been part of Pakistan. So they just mm, uh, there's been some separatist movements and always been tensions.
Hmm.
Um, the this movement, the BYC, is basically started by people who are more, I guess, that they're more educated in a way, like because there's like not a lot of education in Pakistan as well. Uh, it's the most destitute province in Pakistan, and the people like in the past they didn't have like I guess as much of an awareness for a protest movement, coordinated one like this. But this movement is basically like relatively young, and before this like protest movement started, there was like a more militant movement that started in 2006, I think, or 2007, after the Pakistani army, which was under dictatorship back then, killed a very popular leader called Nawab Akbar Bukti. He was basically like he was basically a tribal leader, and he was speaking for the rights of or rights of our people. And the dictator at that time basically just bombed where he was and killed him. He was
Damn.
like not even like young; he was just an old man at that point. And that started the new separatist movement that we're in. And before it was just militancy, but now it's a protest movement as well. And of course they uh, they oppose anything you do. So if you're a militant or you're not, if you're speaking up, they'll abduct you. They've abducted journalists, they've abducted just random students who were activists, they've abducted
Children, like really
people
young children, right?
yeah, yeah. They also don't just abduct the people who are activists, they sometimes abduct the families of the people who are activists. So they
Jeez.
might not abduct you, but they'll abduct your father or your brother or your
Mm,
sister, mother, whatever. Um,
it's terrifying.
and yeah,
So, Dr. Bullock, her crime was, I think, just leading a march to Islamabad, I think, as I understand. Like that's what they're saying is terrorism.
so the current charges are that there was a protest in Quetta, which is the capital of Balochistan, and uh, they don't let people see the corpses of the people that are like abducted. So in the hospital, they got some corpses. There was like uh, an attack by militants. A militant group is called the BLA, which is the Baloch Liberation Army, who has been more radicalized as of late, and it attacked a train station. Not a train station, more a train, basically.
Hmm.
And in that struggle, some people died. But the army claimed that and then the corpses were in the local hospital in Quetta. The army claimed that they're terrorists, but they didn't let anyone see them or like journalists investigate them. So
They said,
the
"Trust me,
protesters,
bro."
yeah, the
Yeah.
protesters tried to go in and see for themselves, because one thing the army sometimes does is it just calls people terrorists, and then
Mhm.
they're the people they abducted and just killed. So
Yeah. Yeah, it's like that
they might just
classic thing of the colonizer being like, "Oh, you're doing terrorism," when they are doing actual terrorism, terrorizing a population of people.
yeah, but even like for example, militants are fighting. So when they do something like an operation or something, they'll just claim that, oh, we've killed 10 militants, but it's actually just people they abducted who are just rights leaders, and they're like, okay, we didn't abduct, and then they can later say we didn't abduct them, they just joined the separatist movement.
Right. I was going to ask about that because, like, they keep saying in all these reports that, we took out 33 terrorists, we killed them all, we eliminated them. When I just don't know, like, what are the
Yeah,
chances
it's
that all of
always
them, like,
there's a lot of false flags. Sometimes it's true, but because they don't let the media work independently, it's hard to verify.
mm,
And during this protest, they fired live rounds, and three people died. One of them was a kid as well, and I think 11 people got injured. And after that, they charged her with terrorism because they said that she was leading like people to attack the hospital, and she caused the death. So basically, they were the ones who killed the people, but they're charging her with the crime of killing the people that they killed.
of course.
And yeah, and that's what they're calling terrorism, is that or
Because
you
they
try
wanted
to.
to identify their martyrs.
Yes.
Wow.
And uh, the the BLA, which is the separatist movement I talked about, the separatist militants group, they're like, you can't. I don't agree with their methods, but a lot of people are going more towards them because the state doesn't allow protesting.
Yeah, well, what do
The
you
some of the,
do?
yeah,
I know that, like, I saw that, like, then both of it, nonviolent and violent resistance is rising. And, like, nonviolent
yeah,
resistance is always met with incredible violence by a state
I mean,
like
yeah, both are.
that.
Uh,
Yeah.
they There have been people like politicians who have been working for decades. At least their claim is. I mean, it's hard to trust like all the politicians either, but that they've been working for the people. One famous one is like another tribal leader called Nawab Akbar Akbar. No, Nawab Akhtar Mengal, not Akbar. Nawab Akhtar Mengal, and he basically just left parliament. He's like, they're not gonna do anything. So there even those people who have been engaging for decades are like, the political process doesn't work, and if you
Right.
don't allow the political process in the and you don't allow protesting, then militants is the only thing that seems to be left.
Yeah, it's
Even
strange,
though
like, the framing of even calling it a separatist movement is weird when they were kind of there, right? Like, the Bullock people were just a population in the area when Pakistan decided to become a state and colonize it, I guess. Is that right?
uh, so for that history, it's then when after World War II, Britain basically couldn't maintain its empire anymore, so it was just going out of a lot of places, and it didn't really care about how it got out as long as it got out. And there was like a very like a very, I guess, extremist wing of Hindu people who were like very anti-Muslim, and because of that, a separate, like a separation from the British Raj India, that movement started. And initially, the point was in creating different states for the people, so it wasn't supposed to be one country.
Yeah.
But when the British then got out, they were just like, it's either India or Pakistan. So India forced a lot of people to become part of it, and Pakistan did the same. And Balochistan was never like actually part of the British Raj. It had its own system, and
It was the
it's more
Khalat, or
Khanate of Kalat, yeah.
yeah.
And they were basically like ruled under the British. Before them, they were independent, and even culturally, it's more closely linked to like Iran and Afghanistan than India, than the subcontinent. And we were technically a free state from August 1947 to March 1948, when the military forcefully took over.
Gotcha.
And basically that's how the Kashmir thing started as well. The leader was some I think a Hindu Brahmin or yeah, I think so. And then the people were Muslims, and the leader just ran to India and just seceded to India on his own. So India attacked Kashmir from one side, Pakistan from the other side, and then they both converged where they converged, and that's where the Kashmir issue still going on there as well.
Mm.
And after that, it could have still worked, but the Pakistani military was initially didn't have people because it was a new country. So the generals and all the leaders were British colonial people. So our military is literally trained by the British colonial army. So it's the same sort of thinking that they have.
Mm.
And because of the threat of like India and them attacking again, they get more resources and more leeway to develop than other places. So they have the colonial thinking, and they're the most developed part of Pakistan. They got more power than the civil side, and of course they have the guns. So
Right.
we've had dictatorships in Pakistan, and they think like colonials. Uh, so every answer to them is like just stomp it down and shut people up.
Yeah.
And because of that, they want people to stop being what they are, like Baloch to be stop being Baloch and Pashtun to stop being Pashtun, and create like everyone's a Pakistani, but it's just as an excuse to like exploit, and they like get the resources, and they don't want to deal with the people, but they like the resources and land.
Yeah, there's like a lot of resources in Balochistan, right? Is that like the
Yeah.
primary concern, I guess? I mean, what there's no logic to expansionism or, these sort of like imperial driven projects, but
Uh, I mean, yeah, Balochistan. It's not like there's no agriculture. Agriculture wise, it's not that rich, but mineral wise, it's very rich.
yeah.
It has a lot of like oil, gas, copper, gold, silver, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it is 43%, I think, by land area of Pakistan. So we're the like least populated, but the most land area of Pakistan. And
Gotcha.
Balochistan wasn't just split like wasn't just under Pakistan. Uh, a large chunk of it is in Iran, and Iran has its own issues with minority groups like the Kurds and with us. And then a really small chunk is in Afghanistan. So they literally just drew random maps, which like the
Yeah.
maps make no sense.
As is the
And
way with most of Asia, it kind of carved up by mostly the British Empire.
yeah, some of them are French
Yeah.
towards the western side.
Mhm.
And so after they were we were like put as part of Pakistan, they never like really reconciled or did any nation building in that way. And in the 50s, they did this stupid thing which they called like the one unit, which is basically they just like said, okay, all of at that time it was West Pakistan because Bangladesh was still part of Pakistan. It's just one unit, and it's just Pakistan. There's no Balochistan, no Sindh, which are the other provinces. At that time, KPK was called Northwestern Frontier Province. It didn't even have a proper name. KPK means Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. So these four, and there were districts. There was a big district called Bahawalpur, and of course Kashmir and Gilgit-Baltistan. They said all of it is just West Pakistan. They did it because they were also oppressing the Bengali people, but the Bengali people actually had more population.
Mm.
So they said if we combine all these different groups as like one thing, then we'll have more than the Bengali people, and then we'll have more political power.
I was
And they
yeah,
basically,
just reading about how FBM was saying that the tactics used against the Bengali people are the same being used against the Balochistan population.
yeah. So mm, they because the Bengali people were, because it was stupidly drawn and the Bengali people were on the other side of India. Of course, India didn't like Pakistan that much either, so it helped Bangladesh become a state as well.
Mm.
They couldn't like get away with it, but with Balochistan, we're not the majority by population, and I think they got much worse in Bengal towards the end, like Bangladesh before it became the country Bangladesh, because they were becoming more and more desperate. And now here, then when they become desperate, they do stuff like this as well, like abductions are rising, and like people protest, they fire live rounds, so stuff like that.
Yeah.
And since
So, just to like bring it back to now, I read that it's just broadly done. The abductions are done by the Pakistani state forces, which I mean, so that's police, military, but there's also the ISI, the spy agency, which is sort of secretive. I don't know if you could tell us more about that.
yeah, the ISI is kind of like the CIA of so I don't know how much, maybe sometimes, but they're more the like clandestine type stuff that does the more I guess foreign type stuff, like intervening in Afghanistan.
Mm.
They've also done some, like any spy agency does some espionage and all that other stuff, and they've killed some activists in other countries, which is presumed because there aren't proper investigations done. Like in Canada, there was an activist whose name I can't remember right now, but I think in 2021, a Baloch activist, she was randomly just one night she disappeared, and then she was found in a river, and then the Canadian police just said, "Oh, she drowned. She committed suicide." But
Oh my God.
the,
No shot,
the
dude. What
relatives
the
were like, the relatives were like, "No."
Yeah,
And
we definitely coordinate stuff like that, you know, like the Five Eyes, the all the coordination between the intelligence agencies of, you know, the Imperial Corps. They know what they're doing.
I don't think I don't think Canada coordinated, maybe, but they just did it maybe in a way that. But I don't think Canada cares enough to investigate either. Like when India did it with the Sikh person recently, they did it sloppily, so Canada caught that, and that created tensions. But
Yeah,
I guess our agencies are more clever. They didn't do it in an obvious way, or
right.
maybe India wanted to scare people more. I don't know, but yeah, the actual, like in the country, there are like these paramilitary groups, like the US has ICE, right? Uh, we have something called the Frontier Corps FC in
Mm.
Balochistan. There's an FC in Balochistan, in Sindh, and then the Rangers in Punjab and uh, KPK, and they're supposed to just be border agents, but but they're just all over the province, especially in Balochistan. So they're just
Mm.
randomly, you'll find their checkpoints, or they'll be there. They harass people I'm from Quetta, the provincial capital. They'll just be harassing random people who are just trying to go about their day, and they abduct people, or it might be people in plain clothes. There are some other paramilitary groups, like there's one called the Levies, which like other than the army, there's a lot of other stuff as well. Uh, or they have like some thugs on retainers they could just get, so they'll have more deniability that we didn't do it, someone else did.
Yeah.
A lot of the times they'll just call them terrorists, like or and sometimes they'll just keep people for months and then release them, sometimes for years, and then just release them on a random road in a random place away from their home, like, and then just
Without,
it's up to the
I'm
police to
guessing
decide.
without like having been convicted actually of a crime, you know,
Yeah,
like
yeah, of course.
yeah.
The legal system is another thing entirely in Pakistan. It's
Yeah.
like
So terrifying.
uh,
God. And it could happen like for any reason really, like any dissent really at all.
yeah. Recently they abducted the vice principal of the a medical college called Balochistan Medical College in Quetta, and no one really understood why. And they didn't let him see his lawyers, and then a few days later they just released him. And
Yeah, like
some we
Dr.
don't know, but
Meringue,
he
like
was
she is also a medical doctor, right? Besides a human rights
yeah, yeah,
activist. Yeah.
yeah. But she's at least being an activist. The other guy was just a vice principal.
Right, just
Uh,
teaching, just doing his job.
and apparently, like you can never get official sources, but they're saying they'll just abduct other random doctors as well for no
Yeah.
reason, harass them.
Horrific.
Yeah, it's they're kind of more clever about the way they do these things, which is why like they don't do it really explicitly like Sri Lanka or Israel does, so they don't get in the news that much.
Mhm.
But also they keep like there's a big it's breaking somewhat, but there's like a big cloud of fear, so no journalist ever entered Balochistan, no one covered Balochistan. It's just been like a black hole of
Yeah.
information for
I've noticed
the
that. I was like trying to research for this, and like everything's out of like India, which is obviously very slanted. Or
yeah,
like there's like a couple of like
yeah.
where is
The
this?
Balochistan Post.
Yeah.
Um,
BW News is the one that I read about the FBM's statement, but
yeah, yeah. The Balochistan Post is another one. If if you go to the balochistanpost.net, it gives it in English. But yeah, India one is another big issue. Like I have to write literally minus India because there's so many Indian sources, and a lot of them are like
Mhm.
vague right-wing ones that basically like their government does the same thing in Kashmir or maybe worse, but
Yeah.
they don't they don't
Hmm.
acknowledge that. They only do it for their own gamesmanship.
Yeah, and acknowledging
Uh,
it happening to Balochistan would require them to acknowledge what they're doing, right? Like,
no, no, they just do it as a like
it was
like
really like
Pakistan does it like
night and day, like
India.
calling everyone terrorists in all of the Indian outlets, versus like kind of everyone else, like human rights orgs and the other, just any other outlet, like where they were like, oh, this is just a human rights activist who led a protest.
Like Indians would like kind of drum it up too just because they don't like Pakistan. They'll be like the Pakistan state is so oppressive and everything, and then Pakistan does it with Kashmir, and it's just kind of like a sick game for them
Yeah,
in a way, like it's team sports or something.
yeah.
And if you're on Twitter or something, you'll find a lot of the Indians too doing that.
Hmm.
But
And that's
I
also
most
directly tied to like Aryan supremacy from England as well, right?
I mean, there's like India has a lot of other like we have our ethnic issues. India has a lot more other stuff. Like they have caste supremacy, which the British sort of played up as well. They have like religious supremacy. We have religious problems too, but there's like their religious supremacy is not only like towards Muslims or Christians or Sikhs or Buddhists, but Hinduism is not really like one religion, but a particular group of uh, the people who call themselves Hindus just dominate everyone else and enforce their like system on everyone else. So um, I'm not as knowledgeable, but there is someone called Arun Anna who covers
Hmm.
stuff in India and in Sri Lanka as well,
Yeah, Arun's
which
awesome.
people can watch. Yeah. Um, so with Balochistan, I don't know any. Like I know, I can recommend people like there's a writer called Nasir Dashti. People can read, and but uh, I don't know anyone who's like that knowledgeable talking about it. So I've just been trying to get people to at least notice and pay attention because again, you'll never find it if for some reason you're like you're really dedicated to watching Human Rights Watch or
Mhm.
something like that, and you read all their blog posts, maybe you'll know about it, but
Right.
you won't know about it otherwise. It
Even then, like, I think it was HRW or maybe someone else, maybe it was the UN or someone. It was framing everything in reverse. That it was saying, that the the Baluch forces are the BLA is the only one doing aggression or war crime in the region, and that's just from what I can tell, factually not true.
Yeah, they're more in the past. They only used to attack like military personnel or the police, or but now they've started attacking like Chinese workers or like other ethnic groups that are in Balochistan, like especially the Punjabi people,
Mm.
because Punjab is the like where the poorest and Punjab is the richest. It's also like where the hegemon is, like the capital of Pakistan, Islamabad, even though it's its own district, is in Punjab. The most well-developed city, not the most populous, but the most well-developed, where most of the resources are spent. Lahore is in Punjab, and s- uh, even that's like mostly North Punjab, because South Punjab are different people, but they keep it as a province, so they'll have like the population majority above other provinces. So they perceive anyone from that area as like the enemy these days. They've become more extreme. They just attack any citizens or anyone. Yeah, so I guess in a way they're kind of comparable to
So, would you
Hamas.
say like it's more along class lines, like a class difference, like a wealth inequality sort of thing, or rather like a nationalist, um, identitarian thing?
It's along. I think all of those lines, because there's a class element. Our capitalists, like our rich capitalists, are a lot of military personnel as well, former military. And Balochistan is the most destitute, but they still like they steal our resources, but they're still the most destitute. But it's also like identity-wise, because uh, they they don't uh, they don't want us to have our own identity as part of like a unified country, but rather just to forgo our identity and
Mm.
just do as they say type of thing, like become Pakistani
Yeah,
completely. Like you can't be Baloch, you have to be Pakistani.
just like an erasure thing.
Yeah, it's like it's basically genocidal, but uh, if you try to define genocide for people, they just think it's mass killing, but it's not just mass killing, and it
Yeah.
can be very slow and as well. It could take decades.
It could be without
It's
any actual killing.
okay.
It could.
Yeah,
I mean, current day America, like the genocide of Indigenous Americans is not a direct murder, but it is policy. It is policy that says you don't have the right to water, or you can't actually farm this land, or we're going to build a pipeline here. It's indirect, but it is still very much a genocide. Like, and also
or
like
residential
still
schools.
like killings
Yeah,
happen also.
or residential schools where you're like taken from your family and tribe because
Mm.
the abuse or whatever, and then trained to be like a Canadian or whatever.
Yeah, just to like remove language and culture.
Yeah, or Russia, how it's abducting people and then abducting Ukrainian people and kids and transferring them way into the east of Russia, and then forcing them to, what would be the word, Russifies? I don't know what the fuck. Russify?
Russification. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, I think a lot of those people were already Russian speakers. But I
Yeah,
mean,
but
that's not, you shouldn't abduct people, I guess. I haven't read a lot about
but
that.
yeah, but there have been reports that they've separated children, basically, like, and making them like Russian in that way. Like
Yeah,
not Russia the ethnicity, Russia the nation, which are different concepts.
right, right.
Uh, Ultimately, though, I think nationalism isn't the solution, but if sometimes it's needed, like it can be useful in certain cases, like
Mhm.
Scottish nationalism or um, for our case, or Kurdish nationalism or Palestinian nationalism.
Yeah, I'm definitely
If we are really
for
pressed.
collective liberation. And if that comes through a nationalist like project, I'm not going to say don't do that.
You have to move past it, but you take what you have. Like, I don't think there's going to be any socialist or whatever thing happening in Pakistan anytime soon. And the only, like, our political parties are basically hollowed out anyways. The only
Right.
hopeful things I see in Pakistan is, one is like the Baloch Yakshati Council, which is like our people, and then there's a Pashtun Tahaffuz movement, which is for Pashtun people, because they've also been oppressed uh, for decades, and like these protest movements and some labor stuff that happens. Because even though we're like a dead country, we're still somehow better than the U.S. in terms of labor movement somehow. I don't know how,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's the entire. That's the most difficult part for me, is that I'm not a journalist, and getting information out is hard as is. So I can just tell what I know as like a common Baloch person. Plus, I'm
Yeah.
not an activist because I'm not as brave as those people. So even I'd hope no Pakistani watch. My hope is that they don't watch, because that's the only reason I still have my face on and everything. I don't tell my full name to people.
No, it's so useful to have like an insider's sort of perspective because again, like the black hole of information is severe. It's hard to learn
Yeah,
much of anything. So as much as you're willing, I would encourage you to keep doing this.
yeah. It is also like a bubble thing. Like once you hear about it, you can't unhear it. Like people when they mention Sudan or Congo or Palestine, you didn't hear about it, but once you hear about it, you might be more mindful and careful about it.
Yeah, definitely.
Um, Speaking of though, is the rug on the back from like an Irani rug, or where is it from?
It's I believe Diné, so like Navajo, it's like southwestern indigenous.
Ah, I keep getting surprised by that, because the patterns, they look so much similar to ours in a lot of these things.
Yeah.
Because you could find something very similar in like some handmade drug in from like a Baloch person or in Iran or something.
Yeah, hand weaving is such a beautiful art, and like textiles are so cool. And like there are like so many similar like patterns and motifs that appear, and it's not
Yeah,
just like, oh, we think of the same things, like there's only so many ideas, but rather like there is like a historical like inter change between like an exchange of ideas of art, and I think that's cool.
yeah, but and if you're more knowledgeable, then you can see the pattern and recognize it. But I'm not that knowledgeable.
Hmm.
But I think, I guess it's also because of the way rugs are and stuff are made. You can do a certain type of patterns, but I
Yeah.
really like them. I like this one as well.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I love it too. Does Chad have any questions? I guess. I think
Sure, yeah.
I've exhausted mine really. I just can't believe it. Like I know it's kind of happening here, with Mahmoud Khalil and others already at other universities being just taken by plainclothes police, not identifying themselves into an unmarked car, and then no one can find them. No one should have to go through that. That's awful. Just for
Yeah.
speaking out, like fuck.
Yeah. Oh, one thing. Like it might be a bit graphic, but sometimes the people that are abducted, that don't come back. are just chopped into like their bodies are chopped up and they're stuffed into like flour bags and then just thrown on the side of the road as well.
Wow.
We've had
God.
people like that.
It's so
Like,
brutal.
yeah, but hopefully that doesn't happen in the US, but who knows?
Yeah, I mean, not so gruesome of stories, but I've heard a lot of stories of state murder. I mean,
I mean, of
we
course,
all know
yeah,
about
the police have been
George
doing it for a long
Floyd
time.
in broad daylight. I think that's the thing about the Pakistani forces that scares me is like a lot of the stories I read were they're doing it all in the dead of night, so no one knows.
Yeah, but they also do the plainclothes stuff as well, right? But since it's
Mm.
so like, it's such a common thing, it's like no one says anything because it's like, why? It's not a new novel thing. Why should I write about it? I think,
It's normalized, yeah. Oh, Felipe is asking you to shill your socials. Do you like I have your Twitter. I can give you that.
Yeah, I have basically EagleLeft on. I have a YouTube. I don't stream, but I sometimes have shorts. I have a Twitch as well, but again, I haven't streamed. Blue Sky is the same, and basically the EagleLeft is the one I use for everything. Um, the other shilling would be I'm in Canada and I have been struggling to find a job, and if I don't, then I have to go back very soon. So
Oh, we know
I'm.
Canadians. I know so many Canadians. I'm sure we can hook you up. What do you do?
I mean, I did a master's in physics, but I can do any job as long. But Canada doesn't have a lot of jobs these days.
Yeah.
So until I find a job, I did start a GoFundMe, but I don't know where the link of that is. But I could share it with you, uh, but no one has to if they don't have the money to give. Just share it around.
Yeah.
Like I'm just trying to because right now with I might have to leave by April. I'm trying to
Oh, that's
get like
soon. Oh,
funding.
yeah,
Yeah. Yes, get some funding so
for
I
sure.
can still keep looking in the summer.
Yeah. Chat, please do give if you can. Go ahead and post that. Uh,
Okay, can I post links on the Twitch chat?
yeah.
Or
Yeah, you're good.
okay, I'll see where uh, your Twitch is. Oh, here it is, live. Okay, yeah.
Well, that's very soon, but I will reach out to my Canadian friends and see if they have anything for you.
Oh, of course.
Any
Thank you.
leads. Yeah.
But with the specific stuff happening in Balochistan, I don't think fundraising helps them, but looking up, you can look up Baloch Jagjati Council or BYC. You can look up BYC. It's easier, BYC, on Twitter, and people could follow that. I don't know if they're on Blue Sky, but they might be as well. And keep up to date and share the information and everything. I also like
Cool.
repost a lot of
I
stuff.
don't think kids should have
from time to
food.
time. Same with like Palestinian stuff
Fuck that kid.
or any other I find. So that those are good ways of having some info.
I think that's
But the major point is,
I think that's the
like
right
just
one.
people learning.
It's just like at Balak.
Do
Yeah,
not come.
yeah. Just see.
Do not come.
Yeah, it's not the easiest. Yak Jehati, which would be yak is in, I guess, just the way you say yak, like a food's when the food's not good, and then je je is I don't think it's comparable. Je Jeh, right? Je,
Mm-hmm.
and then tea is just tea, which is the soft tea.
Yuck,
Yak
yuck jetty.
Yeah.
Nice.
So and then Baloch is cha, not ka, because we're not Scottish.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I probably fucked that up.
No, it's fine.
Baloch.
It's fine. Everyone in America does it the same for some reason.
Yeah,
They don't do it in other places for some reason as well. Like,
we struggle with words in general. Literacy. It's only 79%. So
I guess it's because most of the time when you see the last CH, it's about Scottish people.
yeah. Loch Ness
Yeah.
type shit.
Yeah. Mm, Or, I mean, makes sense. There's like a lot of Scottish mm, cultural influence.
Hmm. Yeah, we just kind of pieced together English from like 6 languages and called it a day.
It is kind of hard when it's the global language. So,
Yeah, I'm so sorry.
no, it's fine.
I would prefer it to be anything else also. I would rather know Mandarin, personally.
I mean, you don't want to learn all the different letters for the different things, like the symbol for house, the symbol for fire,
Yeah,
the
that's a
symbol
lot.
for sun, the symbol for.
Yeah.
It's just when you grow up with it, you get used to it.
Mhm.
My personal would be Persian, even though I don't know it because I think it's the most beautiful of the languages. I don't know,
Mhm.
but
I always thought Russian sounded cool.
yeah, Russian's cool. I'm just glad it's not French.
Yeah, thank God.
French would be
It's too many vowels.
writing it is a pain as well because when you speak it, you don't say the last things, but sometimes you do, and then you write everything down.
Hmm.
Like they just have an extra letter for every word for no reason.
Yeah, just ending everything in E, A, U, X, like Y. That's too many.
But
It's just O. Just say O.
but you don't say those words. If they have a T at the end, you don't say the T. But
Hmm.
sometimes they might have an S in the end, and you have to say this.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, random as fuck.
But yeah, thank you for having me on.
Thank you for
I'm
coming.
gone. Yeah, I Dylan Burns also like asked me to come tomorrow at the
Cool.
same time, so I'll try to maybe relate in a better way. If you want like less rambly and more structured, I was more prepared when I did this with Matt Binder on
Mm.
YouTube.
Yeah,
And
I
if you
watched a
search
little
Matt
bit of that.
Binder,
It's very good. Yeah.
yeah,
I
EagleLeft, then
that's also my fault. I'm not a great interviewer, but I appreciate you so
oh,
much.
no, no, because when I was doing it with him, he's a journalist himself, and I was. It was like a more okay. We'll do it in this time thing. So I
Hmm.
had everything prepared and I had sources in front of me.
Yeah.
Whereas this is more freeform, which is
Yeah.
good too.
I like it personally. It's my
Yeah,
style.
yeah.
Yeah, definitely come back soon and let us know if you do start to stream or whatever, and I'll DM you about the jobs thing.
Of course. Thanks. Yeah. I just get lazy. It's not in like I'm busy or anything. I just like I do. I'm gonna play the record button or not.
Hmm.
Oh yeah. Can I? If I decide to cut this part out, can I post it on my channel as well?
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, I'll probably post it on YouTube, and the VOD will be up on Twitch after I'm done being
Got
live.
it.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, have a good one.
You too. Bye.
Cheers. Bye.
What a gem. Lovely. Lovely. Thank you.